Good morning, friends. So, I'm thankfully done with work for the day. It's not even midday yet, but I've done my classes and I am now on my way. The reason for my sojourn to Italy this time is to do what I'm doing today, which is to go to Genoa. Now, I'm actually very fond of Genoa, port town, and long-time viewers of my channel will remember that it was my point of departure from Europe in January last year to get the ferry, two-day ferry to Tangier in Morocco to start my long African adventure. Anyway, I made an error, not an understandable one, to be honest, because I had travelled from Barcelona to Genoa the previous year on the same ferry line. The ferry goes from Genoa to Barcelona and then down to Morocco. I had taken the ferry before and had not had any security checks in Barcelona. And assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups, but in Genoa they had an airport scanner, an x-ray machine, and I had a couple of knives in my pack, a Bowie knife. I was travelling through Africa, and my little pocket lock knife, and they took both of them off me at security. A very nice man, a very tall man, he was like 6'7" or something. He came to help me, and I said, okay, I understand I can't take the things. Can you give them to the security guys on the boat? And I picked them up the other end. He said, no. I said, can I send them home? He said, no. I said, can you keep them? He said, no. But he came up with an idea, which was to ask a lady at the newsagent in the ferry terminal to hold them for me until I picked them up a year later. And she was like, yeah, totally. Put them in a plastic bag with a sticker on it and put them in a drawer. Now, obviously, I have attempted to contact the security office 3 times, once in English, twice in Italian, to confirm things, but with no reply. So, this entire Italian trip is on a wing and a prayer to hope that the nice newsagent lady has those 2 knives in the drawer for me, and I can then put them in Abbey, put it in the hold to fly back to Britain, and that will be that. I'm hoping that that is the case. So, I'm getting the train in a little less than an hour from Milano Centrale to Genoa. I will keep you posted. Right, my hunt for arancini has not gone well. I'm just going to stop at a pasticceria, have an espresso doppio and a croissant. Ooh, pistachio croissant, that's a good idea. And then I'm just going to get on the train. And I imagine what I'm going to do is, on my way to the port, is stop at the MOG, the Mercato Orientale Genovese, which is just the most amazing open-air market. Open air? No, it's in a building, but it's a massive market. Fresh everything. Oh my God, it's good. And I'll get myself some antipasti from there when I get there. I'm a little nervous, you know. Cross that bridge. I've just recorded pretty much this same thing for my dear Princess Hallie, who lives in Wyoming and has almost never seen a train in her entire life. But yeah, very cool. I love this train station. You have to love a good scale model. So my first video is from in there. That's where the metro comes up. That's the main building, and of course we have the platforms over here. Very cool. Oh my God, I want to ride that thing so badly. Brilliant. That's so cool. Right, well, my mood has really taken an upward tilt. I woke up and I was actually a little pissed off. I was in quite a mood partially because I was a little hungover, and partially because the young lady in the bunk above mine snores like a trooper. My God. Anyway, and then I had to work for 3.5 hours. But now, really quite chipper. So there's that. Anyway. Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to Genoa. I do like this town. Just walking along from Principe, which is the central train station, to the ferry port. I must admit, man, I am awash with conflicting emotions. It was very nice to have the sun on my face for the first time since Italy. It's the sense of familiarity with this city. Nostalgia, because it is from here that I got on the ferry to North Africa, to Morocco. And lastly, I'm a little anxious. Yeah, I'm not a man given to anxiety, really. But then again, most days I'm not about to walk into an office full of heavily armed, rather grim-faced, as I recall, port security, and say, hey, can I have my knives back? So, yeah. Anyway, nearly there. It's good to see the sea. Yeah. Right, well, since I have about a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk, a little bit of colour for the tapestry. Genoa has been a very important port city since pretty much the dawn of time. If you think about the appellations that you hear about the areas, if you like, of Italy, Roman, Milanese and Genovese. It has an enviable position on the Mediterranean that is fairly sheltered, and so makes, of course, good anchorage. It has the dubious honour of being where Christopher Columbus came from. Christopher Columbus, despite what many people think in America, because I think some people who wanted kind of like a cultural link, if you like, published books in the 18th and especially the 19th century, essentially bigging up Columbus like he was some kind of, hero who discovered America and all of that. He did not. He never set foot on mainland America, ever. He came back from the West Indies and so forth, but that was it. And so you have Columbus Day in America, that the indigenous inhabitants of the continent have very fairly essentially co-opted to be Indigenous Peoples Day. And of course you have Columbus, Ohio, which is the state capital. You've got Columbia, which is the New York University that is Ivy League, despite what they've been doing recently. You have the shuttle Columbia, and even in Star Trek, you have the starship Columbia. Now, fair enough, the starship Columbia is more named after the space shuttle, but there we go. Christopher Columbus was a greedy, murderous, rapist, slaver, a savage, albeit in very nice Italian clothes. He was a very bad person, as many of those who explored the world and conquered are, including many of my own countrymen, of course. But there it is. So, this area of the world is very mountainous indeed. Not really major mountains, more like just a lot of them. And if you look around a little bit, you'll see that the buildings in this city are kind of stacked up from the mountainsides, which make for fantastic sea views from almost anywhere you are. Anyway, that ship over there, I think it's the ferry line. It's called Moby. I like that. Anyway, right, I'm in a holding pattern. Spoken to the rather nice security guard. I've asked him to contact Antonio, who is the man who very kindly assisted me last time. It was hell, quite frankly, to have those knives taken off me, however understandable it may be. One of them I've had for 30 years, and I did feel naked without them in Africa. But, very tall man, taller than me, like 6'7". And as I said, he helped me by taking me to the newsagent along the way and explaining to the lady. He described me as gentilissimo, which just means I'm very nice, of course, but is not a bad thing to be referred to. Anyway, so I'm just waiting for him, ideally, to come down and help me once again. Success. Today, as of right now, is going in my cool book. Jesus. Because this was the reason that I was in Italy in the first place. This is why I came here, to pick that up. And now I have. Which really, if you think about it, that is the end of my Africa trip. Bookending, as it were. This is where I started, kind of. This is where I left Europe on the boat to Africa, and now I've come back and reclaimed my property. Yeah. So now I'm going to go into town, into the old part of town, and have some lunch and probably a decent glass of red wine to accompany it. Yeah. Rhapsody is an